Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access first half of the show. We had head coach Todd Bowles, and now we are so excited to be joined by none other than general manager Jason Licht. Jason, thank you so much for being with us.
I appreciate you having me.
And man, picked a good week. Not going to lie, we picked a good week to have you on.
Yeah, no, that's always a good week after a win.
Yeah. And I mean, that wasn't just a win. That felt like, in my mind, okay, so fourth highest points and third highest point differential in a week one game in franchise history. I have to imagine in terms of statements you want to make in week one, was that about ideal in that sense?
Well, first of all, we just wanted to win.
Yeah.
It wasn't about making a statement, but it felt good to get the contributions that we did from young players, and then also, you know, the players that we had just re-signed, you know, our core players. All of them had big games, so it was good to see. You know, it's also good to see that, you know, there's a lot of room to grow too. So we did score a lot of points. We had a lot of success, but there's a lot of things that we can improve on, and believe it or not, that's kind of exciting to know that wasn't the finished product. So.
Yeah, that wasn't the ceiling. There's still even more. That's great. How did you feel going into this year? I imagine you've been here, what, 11th season? Is that right?
Yeah, 11 years.
And
see the gray?
Yeah, everybody here in this building did that to you, I'm sure. So I imagine that every year each team feels a little different, and it can, for you, even feel different as you approach the season. What was your kind of mindset, attitude going into this year? What did you feel like the vibe of this team in this season was?
I liked it's one of the better vibes that I've been around here going into the year. That doesn't always mean that, you know, you're going to be guaranteed a certain number of wins or anything like that, but it certainly is better having a good vibe than a bad vibe. And that's because of the players that we have, and that's because of the culture that Todd you know, fosters, that he keeps, that he wants. And so I had a great feeling. The way the season ended last year, you always hate to lose, unless you're, you know, I mean, even if you lose the Super Bowl, it sucks. But so losing is a bad way to end the year. But still, so many good things, so many exciting things. We managed to get all the players back that we wanted, important pieces. So I just kind of felt like, you know, we're going to not just pick up where we left. I think we're going to be better.
And I know one of the big storylines in terms of you do have a lot of continuity, but you do have a new offensive coordinator, Liam Coen. And here in this first game, you score in the first 5 possessions, 7 of 8 total, 37 points. You guys weren't able to hit 30 until week 9 of last year. So how exciting is it when week 1 already you're putting up that kind of stat line?
Yeah, it's a good feeling. It's good to know that we can that we're going to go into games and we have a lot of options and a lot of weapons, and there's a lot of creativity going on with our offense right now, and it's something that Todd spoke to me a lot about before we hired Liam, what he was looking for, and so far they're delivering.
And what do you remember about the hiring process with Liam, and why you felt like he was the guy, what you expected him to sort of bring to this team?
A lot of energy, a lot of fresh ideas, a lot of, I mean, he did a very good job at University of Kentucky with the quarterback that's now with the Titans, Will Levis. Had his best year when Liam was the offensive coordinator there. But then he's also has the experience in LA with Sean McVay. He's
and Baker for a hot second.
Baker for a minute. But he's not a copycat. He has his own ideas, the way he likes to do things. So it's not like you're just hiring somebody from, you know, a staff. You're expecting him to be Sean McVay. He's his own guy, and you know, may end up being. So far, it's been awesome, and it's so far we're very, very happy.
Yeah, that's great. And we're talking to General Manager Jason Licht here. And you're probably also pretty happy with Baker's start to this season. This guy, I mean, 24-30, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Tell me just kind of first about this game in particular, what stood out to you, and then same thing of how he felt and looked coming into this year.
You never know what's going to happen in that first game. So teams don't have, you know, the advantage of, because nobody's really showing their true colors in the preseason, what they're actually going to do, they're schematically. So any team can beat any team in the first game. That's the way I always kind of look at it. So for him to go out and play damn near perfect was very very exciting. But you could tell throughout the preseason there was just a little bit of a different makeup to him as compared to last year. He's more comfortable. He's a father now, but he was very serious. Not that he was goofing off or anything last year, but it was just a very serious demeanor to him. That still having fun, but a very serious demeanor. I think he's all about business, and he wants to prove the world that that all the critics are wrong.
Yeah, I feel like Baker does feel like the quarterback people want to have a beer with, and I feel like I've heard also you're the GM people want to have a beer with. I feel like, what do you look at of how Baker fits this team and this city? As you said, been here, this is your 11th season, you've gotten a really good feel for this organization in this city, and it feels like Baker and Tampa just work.
Yeah, it sure does. He's one of those guys that can relate to anybody. I think he'd be willing to have a beer or drink or whatever, or hang out with just about anybody. And anybody I speak to or see, out and about, whether I'm running an errand for my wife or, at a restaurant or whatever it is, everybody wants to, ask about Baker. Mike Evans, of course, all of our players. But it just, in this last year, Baker's new. So, when are you going to re-sign Baker? We need this guy. It comes from all walks of life. So I think he's just one of those. That's what makes him such an exceptional leader.
And I know that we are very happy to see Mike Evans, Chris Godwin absolutely still know what they're doing about football. And that was
that's for sure.
Quite a game. Let's first talk about Mike Evans here. That 2 touchdowns made him pass Devontae Adams into 12th place in NFL history with 96 touchdown catches. What did you see from just Mike's opening game, I think about even that first touchdown? I feel like sometimes I'm like, I can't be surprised by Mike Evans anymore. And then he still does something else that you just leaves your jaw on the floor. So what did you see from him going into, again, another year where he is continuing to, it seems, get better even?
I think you nailed it. It seems like he's getting better. He made some incredible catches that we're used to seeing over the years, but he's in great shape. He showed it through camp. He's better than he was as a rookie. I mean, he's amazing. He's amazing.
And as a first draft pick for you, not a bad one for sure. And tell us a little bit about Mike and Baker's chemistry and the way you've seen it grow over these last couple years.
Well, it was pretty quick. Last year when Baker's first year with us, I think those two got on the same page pretty quickly, and it's just gotten better and better. Every minute that they're together. That was a big thing for Mike to come back. He wanted to make sure that Baker was going to be back. So that's very telling of the relationship. So, and it went both ways. So, they just have it. It's just natural. It's just natural. But Baker has that same relationship with Chris, with our young guys. But those two just really, it's pretty special.
And the team was 9 of 13 on third down, which is a great stat in and of itself. And then, Chris Godwin practically had that stat by himself. It seemed like Liam Coen's plan was, it's third down, let's throw it to Chris, and that's a good plan. What stood out about Chris Godwin's performance in this game? I've heard it a million times from people that I've talked to around the league or people on our staff, the players. The ball just finds Chris. It's just seems to be just the recurring thing. When you need a big play, the ball finds him. And what do you like about the idea of how Liam is using him and what makes Chris so good in the slot? And even thinking back to when you originally scouted him, was this the vision you guys had for who he could become and where he'd be most successful? Has that evolved over the years? It's
evolved. We knew that he had some versatility because just the way he plays, his play strength, he's a bigger, sturdier type guy in there, which makes it effective in the slot. But I think the way that they're using him right now is just perfect for Chris. He'll have a longer career doing it. Hopefully. He just has an instinct inside because of running back's vision once he gets the ball in his hands. So that's what makes him ideal for the way he's being used now.
Looking at Mike and Chris, I know also the stereotype of wide receivers. We all know that, right? Of they're divas or this. Mike and Chris could not be further from the stereotype of a wide receiver. How much did you know that about them as you scouted them? How much was that a part of it? And how much does that affect a locker room when a high-profile set of positions and people like that are the way they are?
It's very unique. It's rare actually to have one like that, but now we have two veterans that really have no ego. They want to win first, but they have competitive nature to them to be the best. It's a general manager, it's a head coach's dream to have players like that are your leaders, that are your veterans, that at that position, like you said.
And of course, we talked about there were a million great things about the game. One of the unfortunate ones is the injury bug that has happened this last week, where I think a lot of people probably think your job is done in the offseason. You do the draft, you find the guys, and then you're done. In a week like this, where you had guys just dropping like flies, particularly at certain positions, and you look at the D-line pretty decimated going into the game, and now your secondary pretty decimated in the game, and it's early in the week, so we don't know exactly who all will or won't be available, but what happens now for you and your department as this happens in the way you try to? The coaching staff's going to do what they can do with who they have. What's your route of trying to help with this situation?
Well, it really kind of starts in real time during the game. As we were getting injuries, we were already kind of formulating a plan and reaching out to certain people that we thought maybe could be available or were available at the time. And then, as the days unfold, we put a plan together. So we've got one. We've got to bring some players in now, but we're going to get some players back. And so it's just the life of it's a season. It's kind of a weird. It's a very strange profession where going into the year that you're going to have players get hurt. It's just kind of sick.
Yeah.
Knowing that this is part of the business, but you just have to prepare for it at all times. And luckily, I have a staff that is ultra prepared. For these situations, we have list upon list of this is what we're going to do if this happens. So, but it's like I said, it's just kind of strange that you're preparing for players to get hurt.
Yeah, you have to basically prepare for the worst case scenario. Yeah, that's so interesting. All right, we are going to take a quick break here. We're going to have more coming up with General Manager Jason Licht on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access. I have General Manager Jason Licht joining me here. Let's talk a little bit about Kalijah and Yaya. These are a couple guys that, as rookies last year, is it safe to say they exceeded expectations last year, or maybe you already knew to expect that much from them?
I would say expected a lot from Kalijah, being where we selected him. I would say Yaya exceeded expectations. Came along quicker than we thought he would, and we're very, very excited about them, both of them coming into the season.
And what are sort of the hopes for in the ceiling for each of them? I feel like you hear all the time about this year 1 to year 2 jump. Is that something you guys are expecting to see out of them, and what you feel like now that you've seen them for a whole year here, once they're both, of course, able to be healthy and back and playing, what's the idea of what they could hopefully become?
I think we are expecting a significant jump from where they were last year. Now, with Kalijah being out here for a little bit and then Yaya missing all that time, it's going to probably take a couple weeks, or maybe it just takes 1 week. But I think at some point during the season we're going to see a significant jump.
I know another area of emphasis this offseason for you guys was the run game overall. There's a lot of different ways that the team's gone about working on that, whether it's from Liam Coen being brought in and his ideas, but for you and your staff, how did you approach that this offseason of that, knowing it was such a focus, and then just what you are hopeful to see from Rashad and Bucky and the offensive line, and where we could maybe see that grow from last year?
Well, we obviously drafted Graham, so we felt Graham has a chance to be a very dominant player on the interior at center or guard, but at center right away, which is already coming. He's already shown a lot of promise there. So. And then with Bucky, he's a very direct runner, very instantly sees things, and I think the fans are seeing that. We're seeing it in training camp. And then Rashad, with his style, more of a glider, but very, very good in the passing game. And then we're leaving out Sean Tucker, who had an outstanding preseason as well. If he was forced into action, I think we would all be very impressed with him too. So I think with the fresh ideas, with the new scheme, everybody just it's come together very quick. We have an excellent offensive line coach in Carberry and Brian. So I think everything's just coming together. I don't think we've seen the best yet.
And the offensive line, I know that now there's a couple new additions in there with Graham and
Ben.
And with Ben as well. Now you do at least have Tristan and Luke at their same spots of after being moved around a little bit. You have Cody year 1 to year 2. What have you seen about the chemistry from that group and where they are coming in for week 1 of knowing that group more than any other, the idea of chemistry is maybe the most important?
Well, they've all improved. So especially we've seen a marked improvement from Cody and then Luke too as well. So that's good. That room gets together or gets along as well as I've ever seen.
Yeah, they seem to move in a herd. We've all noticed even
do.
in the facility. It's like you'll hear the thundering footsteps of the whole giant group.
They do. And the whole organization, everybody's job, whether it's your job, a coach's job, my job, all really depends on how well that room gets together, gets along.
Yeah.
So because if the O-line gels and is playing well together, the whole team plays better. So that's kind of been a goal of ours to make sure that we get the right type of guys for all positions, but especially that offensive line.
I feel like you are particularly good at finding offensive linemen in the draft, and even from small school guys that are not just kind of the mainstream ones that everyone's saying, yeah, that guy's going to be good. Is it, in your mind, do you think it's the position you're best at scouting talent for? Do you have a position you think is your best?
I don't want to take credit for. I can't take all the credit. I've got a great staff. I'll keep telling you that until I'm blue in the face. So we have had a lot of success with offensive linemen. Now I do enjoy watching offensive line. It can be boring for some. It's not as sexy as watching a receiver or a running back or even a quarterback. I really enjoy all aspects of offensive line play because I did play it. I also played defensive line, so. I enjoy that as well, but offensive line, I can spend a lot of time watching them.
I like that. We're talking to General Manager Jason Licht. Let's go through some of your other draft picks this year as well. Tell us a little bit about Chris Braswell and what you think his expectations could be.
He's playing very well for us. He's a very physical player. He's very heavy-handed. You've probably heard that over and over again. He can set the edge. He's improving daily as a pass rusher. That position, what we asked them to do in this scheme, a lot of drops, a lot of reads. It can be once the light clicks, like we did for Yaya about halfway through the season last year, then you see the full player. And right now he's coming along at the pace that we expected. And
how about that O-line or that outside linebacker group overall? I mean, you lose Shaq, which not only is that a thing from a production standpoint, but just who he was to that group and the locker room and character guy and leader. Now, as you look at that group overall, what are your thoughts on the depth and on the leadership and what you think that group as a whole could be this year?
Like the depth, like the young talent that we have there, not just Yaya, but Jose and Marquise. Then there's Anthony Nelson, who's been here the longest, who is just as steady as they come. Like the depth, I like the energy, I like the youthfulness with Yaya. It's a good group. It's a good group.
And Joe Tryon-Shrink, I know he got that sack fumble in the game as well. Coach said he did a lot of things really well. Do you feel like he's a guy that needs to step into a bigger role and bigger leadership role with Shaq leaving, as he is one of the other elder statesmen in the group?
And he is all of that. He's taken us. He has a lot of pride in his play. I think he's shown a lot of improvement. We joked around about it. I didn't realize that he cut his hair. And
that was it. He's aerodynamic now. He's able to get in there.
No, it's reverse Samson. That's
yeah.
what Todd said the other day to me. No, I think he's got a lot to prove this year. He's got a lot to prove.
That's how you could tell how hot it was this summer. You had Joe, Bucky, and Rashad all cutting their hair. They were like, this is too hot. I can't deal with this anymore. All right, how about a couple of your other rookies? I know Jalen McMillan, a guy that splashed early and often in training camp and preseason and made a lot of headlines and seemed like he earned Baker's trust pretty quickly. What did you see from him in college, and then have you expected him to make this kind of an impact this quickly?
Saw a playmaker, somebody that's he's got a lot of energy, he's got a lot of confidence. He's a very smooth athlete that has, he's got quickness on top of it. He can run, but he's a very quarterback-friendly receiver because of the way that he moves and the way he can contort and catch balls. Like if you squinted, you wouldn't know on that touchdown if that was him or Mike Evans. They kind of move a lot alike. I know Mike's a 6'5" guy, but yeah. He's just got this this confidence and swagger to him that he's a playmaker. He's a playmaker. He expects to make big plays.
And Tyke Smith, another guy that I know Coach Bowles and a lot of coaches have been very complimentary of his football IQ in particular. And take us through kind of the position you were expecting him to maybe play, of looking at him at nickel and safety in different areas, and what you saw in him that said, especially in Todd Bowles' defense, why this guy would fit well.
He's very smart football player. And we knew that off the tape. We knew that when we talked to him. But then when you have him in the building, that's all anybody says. He knows this defense as well as any veteran right away, which is really unheard of.
Especially Todd Bowles' defense that everybody says is not easy to learn.
So the things on the field that you love is he's very, very tough. He's explosive. He's got some explosive movement to him, but he loves contact, and he's got a nose for the ball. But he has very quick to make reads, and he's got a quick trigger. So I think we're going to see him making some big plays for us this year.
And yet again, you and these University of Washington guys. Let's talk about Devin Culp. First of all, is this just a coincidence you've ended up with so many Washington guys? Like, is this crazy to you?
Well, maybe a little bit, but
you couldn't get further away.
No, that's right. And Blair thinks that we should at least get some kind of scholarship offer for our kids, whether it's it doesn't have to be a athletic scholarship, but something for
some how
kind
much
of credit, some kind of credit if our kids want to go to the University of Washington.
Yeah.
So,
well, and then you can draft your kids, because obviously that's all it'll take,
So it's you've heard over and over the type of kids, the type of players that we want as people, and there are just certain programs that recruit that type of player. Georgia, Alabama, and Washington happen to be three that we've got some players from. So. And we haven't been disappointed. So they've done a great job there with the type of guys they get, and it's no coincidence that they've had a lot of success as a program as well.
So Devin Culp, late round guy, definitely no guarantee you make the roster at that draft spot. And then we heard a lot about the fact that Liam Coen may use only one tight end as often. So even for there to be 4 guys that earn a spot on the 53, to me says that Devin Culp showed you something that said, I need this spot. Tell me what that is.
He did. He's got something different to him. He's not a big, inline type blocker, but he's tough. He loves to compete as a blocker. But what he has is he can run. He can run, and he can threaten. He can threaten the defense. He can threaten the middle of the field. So, hopefully, at some point this year, we get him active on game day. But right now, we're trying to put the best 48 out there during the best for the situation that we're about to encounter. The game plan.
Yep. All right. We're going to take one more break. We'll have one more segment coming up here on Buccaneers Total Access with General Manager Jason Licht, brought to you by Advent Health. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. I'm joined by General Manager Jason Licht. We just went through the draft class, but also wanted to bring up the undrafted guys that were able to secure a spot. Cam Johnson and Tyreek Funderburk. I'm imagining Tyreek is about to be a little bit more important even than you thought he might have to be earlier on. And then Cam as well is a guy who he was hurt a lot of the preseason even. So for an undrafted guy to do enough in limited time to show you he earned a spot. Tell me about these, and same thing with Tyreek. I mean, they were both injured a lot of the time. So what did these two guys show you in a limited amount of time that said, I need to be on this 53?
Well, they showed a lot. First of all, they have to be able to pick up the offense and defense pretty damn quick for us to make the team, and yet alone be active on, for in Cam's case, week 1. So that number one, and both of them are very, very smart football players, which is incredible for Cam, coming from a smaller school. I think it's a great school, great college, all those things, but it's a program that's only had football for 4 years. So it's really amazing, the story that he's had. He's made some explosive plays all through camp. He's impressed, the quarterbacks, the coaches, the scouts, everybody. In terms of Tyreek, he wasn't active week 1. It had a lot to do with he was still kind of coming back from the injury. We've been talking about him since OTAs that, you know, he has starter qualities to him.
Wow.
So he's very patient in coverage. He's got great feet. He's got great feel, and he's got great ball skills. It would not surprise me at all for him to have success early this year when he's thrown out there. So we're not at all afraid of him, you know, quote unquote, throwing him to the wolves.
Yeah.
So it's I don't think it's too big for him. So, which is a great quality to have for a DB.
Yeah, high compliment to him for sure. So looking at the roster overall, I just, the number one thing I've been so excited to talk to you about is just this idea of you got 44 out of your 53 guys that are what we call homegrown, that whether it's you drafted them or they were undrafted free agents you signed right at the beginning, they started their career with the Buccaneers. That is an insane number. And then it's 20 out of your 22 starters. The only starters, it's not, I mean, based on pre-injury and all, you know, the way the starters were to start the year,
Sure.
that it's only Baker, Mayfield, and Ben Bredeson. So your whole defense and all but two of your offense are homegrown guys. How have you guys been able to manage that? And just what does that say even about the success you've been able to have alongside your staff?
Yeah, well, first of all, the staff, the coaches and scouts, they've done a fantastic job. And those our two staffs have to work well together. The head coach and the GM have to work well together. If there's any kind of rift there, it just never works. It may work temporarily, but in the end, it's disaster. So we, luckily, every coach that we've had here, but especially with Bruce and then now Todd, we have an outstanding relationship. So that helps during the process when we bring players in. There's no arguments. I mean, there are arguments like, but then,
I think this guy. No, I think this guy.
But then we walk out of the room and we are all on the same page. So, you know, as my goal, I think if you go back when I was first hired, probably my first press conference where I was terrible, you know, and looking at it was, and very nervous, but my goal was we want to draft and develop, and then you want to have some free agency, some here and there, but in the perfect world, your drafts are outstanding. You don't have to worry about free agency because free agency, there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of risk. There's always a reason why those players are available that their teams, you know, didn't want to re-sign them. So there's success stories like Ryan Jensen. There's success stories, but then there's also a lot of ones that don't work out. So to have most of our players. Now, I'm not saying that we're not going to, you know, tap into free agency
It worked kind of well with Tom Brady, Gronkowski.
There are some good.
Maybe. There's some times
there
it
are
can
some
work.
times it can work. Gronk was a trade.
That's true. That's fair.
JPP
That's fair.
was a trade.
That's true.
But it's always better to draft and develop. But it doesn't always work out. But it's always better that way.
And I imagine that you guys are good at evaluating talent. You're probably pretty good at evaluating yourselves as well when it comes to what works, what doesn't, learning from things. It's kind of like almost watching film on yourselves, I imagine, as you watch the season. What are the biggest things you think you've learned along the way, where you've grown as a general manager, where your staff has grown, and what that has led to of now this idea of the I am that man and what you guys look for in someone you draft?
Well, the number one thing is resisting the temptation to take a player that you think, well, we'll get it out of him. Maybe he's got some problems that he can't seem to get rid of, but we'll take care of it when he's here. To avoid that, it just avoids a lot of problems, and because most of the time you're not the person that is going to be able to reach him. I mean, if they couldn't reach him in college, we won't be able to reach him. So that's one thing I've resisted. The other is talking yourself into a player. Maybe he's got all the tools, he's got the speed, he's got the strength, he's got the quickness, the athleticism, he just doesn't make plays. Well, we'll get that out of him. It's trying to resist that.
Yeah.
And take what is a good football player and what is a good person. So.
And looking at the guys that you re-signed this offseason, I mean, man, what a testament to those values and who that is. And I'd just love to hear for you what it was like this whole offseason. You re-signed Levante and Mike and Baker and Tristan and Antoine. I mean, you were a busy man. What led to you being able to do that? Tell us about those guys, why that was so important, and how you've been able to truly reload as compared to rebuild.
It was a daunting task. Luckily, I have Mike Greenberg and Jackie Davidson working around the clock during a period there. Well, number one thing it takes is money, and luckily we have great owners who give me all the resources that I need. So money talks, and we were able to secure those guys with deals. Now they all I think took into account that they might not necessarily be the highest paid, but this will allow us all to work into the confines of the cap situation that we're in. So we've had a lot of cap situation that we've had issues that we've had to work through last year, this year, and then a little bit next year. So for what we did after the Super Bowl. So been fortunate that we've been able to get through and win while we're doing it.
And you mentioned Mike Greenberg and Jackie Davidson, the people who really help you with salary cap and contracts and all of that. Explain to the average person.
Oh boy, I hope I can.
Oh, I'm not going to make you explain everything they do because I know that's a daunting thing for sure. What makes them so good at it? Because we just hear it's like there's a salary cap. How much can really be done? How much can really happen with these contracts? Why are they able to help you get this done in ways that other people might not?
Well, they're creative, and they're very good at explaining to me, laying it out. This is what we can do. There's 100 different paths that we can go. Do you want to just focus on 2 people here, or do you want 5? Do you want 10? I mean, I'm just kind of making this up as we go, but this is what we can do if you want to go down this path. This is what you can do this path. And they're not telling me who I should draft or who I should sign. They do a great job of laying it out there. These are the different avenues you can go, and you pick the one that you want to do.
Now we got the Lions coming up. Tell me, does this feel like a bit of a revenge game, a little bit?
I feel like it's a very good test for us. It's obviously a tough place to play. They're a very good football team. We have a lot of respect for them, their coaching staff, their scouting staff, their front office. So we have a lot of, like I said, respect for them, and they're a tough team. So this is going to be a good test for us.
And tell us about some of the changes they've made of just how they might be even a more formidable, especially I know they've made a lot of changes on the defensive side of the ball for them, but some of the ways that you feel like this is a similar Lions team to who we faced last year and a little bit different.
Well, they've got a little bit more, every player gets a little bit better, and especially the young players, so they've got a really good receiving core on offense, and I think Jameson Williams has improved a lot from last year. We're going to see a little bit different dynamic there. So we have a lot to prepare for, and Todd's doing a great job right now putting the game plan together.
That's great. Well, Jason, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us. We really appreciate it. I know you got a lot going on this week for sure. And again, just congratulations on a great draft and off season and signing everybody. And we're just looking forward to everything this season.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm glad that you didn't dig deep into my past to find out that I was a DJ in college as well. But I wasn't. But
we'll leave that to Todd.
I'm glad you didn't find anything to embarrass me. Thank you.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help. All right, that's going to do it for us on this edition of Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. This is Buccaneers Radio.